Uh, in the conference play again this week, 55th meeting with San Diego State, playing for the oil can. We got two teams that I think are very similar situations, both 1-3, both relatively desperate for a win. We've got a lot of things to clean up from last week, and we're anxious to redeem ourselves after our performance last week.
Questions for Coach?
Coach, you say anxious to redeem yourself. What do you think went wrong now that you've had a chance to sit on it and digest it for a while?
Well, I think on both sides of the ball, physically, I thought San Jose State did a better job than we did, at the point of attack. When you start a new quarterback, there's going to be a little bit of a slow momentum at times. I thought Ford competed well, but clearly wasn't as comfortable as our other quarterbacks who've been getting the majority of the reps. But we got to do a better job, both sides of the ball, blocking and tackling. And our hats off to San Jose State. They had opportunities where we had some one-on-ones to move the sticks, and they made tackles in space on our guys, and we had opportunities on third down in particular a couple of times where it's one-on-one, and Irvin did a terrific job making a guy miss and moving the sticks. We've got to do much better against the run. We got to do a better job developing our depth. We had some guys have to play last week because of injury and other reasons, and we've got to get those guys coached up. There's nobody feels sorry for you. You got to do a better job coaching our guys.
Some people say, well, the quarterback doesn't matter because you guys didn't stop the run. But I mean, you've said so many times it all works together. If your offense is getting first downs and sustaining drives, it's different, and your defense was on the field 40 minutes again in that game. But was the quarterback situation all week long a distraction, a detriment? How did that scenario, which was kind of a topic all week long, at least publicly, how did that impact the team in that game?
Well, I think it was something people were talking about. Our team knew on Monday who was starting. We knew it was going to be Ford and Gilden. We had a package for both those guys. We knew Zach was not going to play. So it was not a distraction for us, other than the fact that our team knew that we had two starters do something stupid, and our team was going to suffer. And we have to rise above that and overcome. We weren't able to do that.
Coach, I'm not sure what you can share exactly, but any more details about what exactly happened to Ford and how's he doing?
Well, we were going through the film trying to figure out where that injury occurred, and he couldn't tell us on Saturday night, Sunday morning when we got back in here at 3 in the morning. He's doing better now. He had the surgery yesterday. I understand about an hour ago he was just released to where he can have visitors now. His parents were at the game, so they're with him this morning. I'd like to commend our training staff. They did a terrific job with him on Saturday night. Like I said, rolling in here at 3 o'clock. Fortunately, we had doctors on hand. We were able to get the proper medical attention. And then our trainer, GA, grad assistant Wednesday, did a great job. Spent the night there making sure he was all set. So really appreciated her efforts on that, and Tony Hill's entire staff for doing that for Ford. He's going to be sore. I'm going to try to get over there as soon as this is done, now that he can have visitors.
I didn't even know if you've even talked about football with him at all, or even thought about that. Is it something that you've even talked about, kind of his future with football at all, or anything like that?
No, talking with Tony, he's going to be out this year. He won't be able to live for a pretty good bit here. They had to cut him open, so there's some healing that has to take place before he can do anything that strains. But our concern for him right now is just to get healthy. He does have another year. I've had multiple conversations with his parents, but I have not talked with Ford yet.
Watching Zach on Saturday, it seemed like, I don't know if you had a chance, I'm sure you had a chance to talk to him, but it seemed like he was really into it on the sideline, and he was being a good teammate. Did you like to see that was kind of the way he responded to that adversity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we expected that from him. Zach realizes he messed up. Like a lot of young people who mess up, though, he had to own it, which I believe he did. He's very remorseful for what he did. He realizes not only did he embarrass our team and our university, himself, and he wanted to do something, whatever he could, to try to make up for it. So he was fully engaged, trying to help the quarterbacks when they were coming to the sideline. being involved in signaling, all the while knowing that that story was going to go out, nationally on TV. It's not a fun feeling, but he owned it. He's paid that part of his debt. He and Brandon will still have some things internally that we have to make right. But I was happy the way he handled himself, because he treated the right way, and hopefully this will be a great growing opportunity for him. That's what college is about, is guys understanding where those boundaries are and making good decisions. He made a bad one, and now hopefully he'll learn from it.
It's kind of amazing, Coach, because like you've played 4 games, and it almost feels like you've had almost a new quarterback for each game, almost playing their first real big time start as the starter. I mean, is it going to be kind of nice having Zach this week, someone who has a little experience, and what will it mean to have him back?
Hopefully so. I think Zach, like we just mentioned, I think he's grown from the situation. I think anytime you get something taken away from you, you have a little bit better appreciation for it. He's got the most experience of our quarterbacks. I liked what he did at the end of the Utah game, coming in off the bench. He had a terrific week of practice when we told him, and he's had some bad news the last couple of weeks. Part of it was self-inflicted, obviously. But the week before, he finds out he's not going to be the starter, that Jason's going to be the starter. Some guys, get the mopes and hang their head. He didn't. He went out and had probably the best week of practice he's had. We're kind of kidding as coaches, saying, of course now he does this, and we make the right decision. But it showed in the Utah game that preparation wasn't in vain. That when we needed him, he stood up to the call, and we're going to need him this week. San Diego State's got a terrific defense. They give you a ton of pressure looks that can be very confusing, particularly to a quarterback who's not real comfortable with the situation. He's got to watch a ton of film so that we can get the ball to the right people on time. I think when you play a pressure defense like this, you've got to let it rip and have some explosive plays, and I think Zach gives us an opportunity to do that.
After the game, not surprisingly, Adrian seemed like he was taking it really hard. Has he stepped up, maybe talked to the team, or even immediately after the game? It felt like he had a lot to say and really wanted to kind of motivate the guys.
Yeah, Naeem, he addressed our team after the game on Saturday. As a senior, obviously takes everything very, very personally. He knows this is his last hurrah. He wants to leave a legacy here, like others in the past have, of excellence, of winning championships. I think he's done a really nice job. And again, he's a guy that lost a lot of last year because of injury. He played, but couldn't play at the level he wanted to. But since he's been back, he's had great intensity, and we need him to get our guys to rally around.
Coach, with the loss of Ford, you don't have certainly nearly as much depth at the quarterback position. Will you take less chances maybe with Zach in a situation where, if he's tucking and running it, you can't afford for him to get hurt? So does your game plan change?
I don't know that it necessarily changes. I think Zach's been pretty good about when we do use the quarterback part of the run game, much like Derek. Now Derek, when he'd get around the red zone, made some dumb decisions, decided to fly through the air. But most of the time, they'll get what they can and then get down, and he'll be coached up to do that. But we'll still call the same plays. Part of the problem we had on Saturday was we weren't pulling the ball at times when we should have. Ford is probably not our most mobile quarterback, and so the guy who's making the decisions, hey, do I throw it, run it, pull it, give it? A lot of times it's based on what they feel most comfortable doing, and we didn't have that quarterback pull run aspect that we need in this offense to make it go.
More questions for Coach?
With that quarterback situation, how would you define the roles of Zach, Kilton, and Jesse now that you're down to 3?
Well, Zach's obviously our starter. We're going to go with him. We will have Kilton's our backup. We will likely have some package stuff for him that if we want to change some momentum that might accentuate some of the things that he can do. I think the other day people saw some of the dimension to the game that he brings. And then Jesse will be our emergency guy. He's the last quarterback standing. He's on our scout team field most of the time, but we'll have to find a way to get him some reps.
Hey Coach, good morning. Your thoughts on running back Brian Humphrey from San Diego State, after giving the 300 yards with Irving.
Humphrey?
Yeah, Humphrey from San Diego State. Humphrey? Humphrey, I'm sorry. Your thoughts on him? He's an all-WAC or all-Mountain West running back and coming back.
Yeah, no, I think he's, I've said this all along, I think he's probably the best back in our league other than Martez Waller. He's extremely explosive, excuse me. I think he's a very similar style player to what we just saw in Tyler Irvin. Both those guys run very physically and aren't huge stature-wise, but they play big. A guy his size, you don't expect to run between the tackles with the force that he does, but he does a terrific job with it. He's explosive through the hole. Doesn't go down typically on first contact. Does a nice job of bouncing off of first contact, and he's got a gear that he can run away from people. So he's an extremely dangerous runner. We did a decent job defending him a year ago, and it's going to take that kind of an effort this year to slow him down. Clearly, he's one of San Diego State's best weapons. He's one of the best weapons in our conference.
Coach, which side of the ball are you more concerned about right now?
I'm concerned about our whole team. I don't. It's like a parent. You don't love one kid more than the other.
You said that the team knew pretty much Monday last week that Zach wasn't going to start. Looking back on the whole week, any regrets on how the whole situation played out? Or are you comfortable the way you guys did everything?
I regret that our players made decisions that put us in that situation. There's got to be consequences to dumb decisions. I know people want to hear about what we're going to do. We keep a lot of information internally. I don't know that it helps to let our opponents know exactly what we're going to do. But our team knew the whole time. We talked about it every single day. So I don't think it was a distraction as much as it was. Somebody else had to step up with less experience. In Brandon Hughes' case, the second play of the game, Keiki goes down, and now we're playing with our third team outside linebacker. Those things happen in a football game, and Brandon's there. There's not as much of a drop off. You have a starter and a guy that he's splitting time with, but now we're down to our third. And that's football. But again, it makes those guys hopefully rethink the repercussions of the decisions that they made on a Saturday night and how it affects our team. That's what the lesson they have to learn, and our entire team needs to learn.
Does that loss remind you of any other games or kind of this feeling of where you're at now in your time here?
I think anytime you physically get beaten, I don't know that it reminds me of anything, but you got a pit in your gut that you want to resolve to fix. I know our players were extremely upset after the game. That's not how you want to be remembered, especially if somebody physically beats you. But we've got a lot of, I think, really good leadership with resolve. The guys are going to come out today. We had them, pushing sleds this morning at 5:45, and they attacked it, which is what we expect. When we watch film, we got guys that are, looking at how do I get better, and that's what it's going to take. Is we know we're not a finished product. Obviously, we got to keep getting better each week, and we got guys that aren't going to let the result of last week define us. We're going to continue to get better each week.
Coach, I want to go back to Ford. You don't know what play he got injured, or he wasn't feeling different at any point in the game?
No, he didn't mention anything to us. In fact, when I saw him, I was on the bus with him, and we were asking him, hey, when did this come on? And he said, when we arrived, he kind of fell asleep like most of our players did. When he woke up, he was a little groggy, and he couldn't get up because his stomach was sore and was lightheaded. And we were talking with him, and hey, do you remember, was there a play? And he said, no.
Coach, the 5:45 sleds, is that typical for Monday morning, or is that different?
Yeah, what we do is one side of the ball, we'll watch film, the other side we'll push sleds, conditioning-wise, and then we'll flip it after about 45 minutes to an hour, and the other side goes. And off to school they go.
Coach, what's your take on the actual trophy for this rivalry game? I know we've talked about it in years past, but it's a rusty old oil can that signifies, obviously, the travel from Fresno down past the Grapevine.
I think, one of the great things about college football is that you have these rivalry games that are symbolized by an old wooden bucket or a boot or a cannon, or in our case, an oil can. I guess the story is that people would fill the oil can to get over the pass. I'm not sure how exactly that all worked, but I just like the fact that when you play a school that now we're in the same conference where it's been off and on. In the state, we have a lot of recruiting battles against them. We have people, just like last week, that are graduates of both our institutions that are in business, either together or as competitors. It makes for a great rivalry. And to have a symbol that you can have in your offices to show recruits afterwards is kind of a nice prize to have. And our guys know how important it is to not just this conference, but in recruiting and everything we do to win this football game.
Coach, early, as I was going back and forth along the sideline in that game, it seemed like you were a little more fired up to begin that game, going off on the sideline. Is that something we may see also out on the practice field this week? Like maybe you're a little bit more fired up, maybe a little more tough love this week?
I don't know that I was any more. I think anytime you start conference play, the intensity's got to crank up. And when you go on the road, you've got to have an attitude that, hey, our backs are against the wall. We got to fight our way out of this thing. And I just wanted to strike that note with our players. It'll be similar this week. On the practice field, we try to get a lot of teaching done. But on game day, it's time for that intensity to crank up.
Any chance you'll take even a more active role, like in game planning, defensively, especially after last week?
I'm involved in game planning every week, so I don't know that there's more of an active role. I let our staff call it. I think for me, I know some head coaches focus on one side of the ball or the other. I feel it's best, having been in different situations where the head coach is the head coach and you hire guys that you trust to get things done. We meet on Sundays and we go through the film and we correct errors and we discuss why this happened or that happened and we make adjustments. And we do that every Sunday, whether we win or lose. But it's not going to change who's going to call the offense or the defense on Saturday.
Is it kind of tough when you look at the film? Like sometimes when you're giving up big plays, maybe a guy makes a bad read or takes a wrong step, but when you get kind of physically dominated, what can you do to address that?
Well, a lot of it's technique, playing with your pads too high. Times we had guys get out of gaps that they're supposed to have gap integrity. You got reads, and they were doing a nice job again of running plays that we had practiced, but a little bit different formation or a trade and a motion, a little bit of window dressing where hey, look over here, then boom, they hit you. We got to do a better job of getting our guys settled into, hey, I know we practiced against X. They're still doing X, but it looks like Y. So get our guys settled in to play it. And they gave us a lot more two-back run game than they had showed before, which I think is their strength and is something that we had not seen a bunch of. They were much more of a spread team the last couple of weeks. And it just added up to they did a good job of coaching and executing, and we did. And it starts with me, it starts with our coaching, and we got to get our players coached up better.
What's the update on Damari Scott?
He's banged up. He was getting an MRI. I've not heard the results of that. So I think he's, he'll be day to day, but I'm not sure. Like today, he won't go. We'll see through the week.
Is it a shoulder with him? Or?
Yeah, it isn't sublux, but it's something with the shoulder. I don't know which shoulder, but something with the shoulder. It happened on the opening kickoff.
How big a loss was that to not have him? Because I know he's been one of the best players for you.
Yeah, no, it was tough, but just like everybody else, next man up. I think it helps that we have Delvon Harway back. Delly is going to be a little rusty. First coming back, but I thought he competed decently.
You mentioned the two-back stuff and the physical nature of the game with San Jose State. It was two backs, it was three tight ends, not three tight ends. San Diego State has a great fullback too. He's from the Valley. You figure to see more of those formations and more of those attacks, and if so, is there something you guys can do schematically or personnel-wise to try to deny that? Because when you never deny it, you never make them adjust, right?
No doubt. Yeah, and that's things that we get back in on Sunday and talk about. And then, part of it's personnel, part of it's adjustments. But we've just got to do a better job of playing fundamental defense, and we didn't do that. Too many times we're either not stepping with the right foot, we're not maintaining leverage, our pad level was bad a lot of the time. It has nothing to do with scheme. It's we've got to coach our guys to do a better job fundamental football-wise.
Does that mean changing how physical your practices are? and allowing more hitting in practice, or
Well,
emphasizing that more?
Again, our Tuesday, Wednesday practice are physical practice. And we do run drill, good versus good, on both of those days where it's our, guys who are traveling against each other, give each other looks. We go physically against the scout team. I mean, it's live to the point of attack. We don't want to, beat up our scout team where we have no receivers or running backs left. But all the blocking and on the perimeter, they're cutting, they're blocking, it's football. And so I don't know how much more physical you can go. I mean, we may do periods of time, where we might do a third and short and it'll be live. But, especially with where we are health-wise, we can't afford to have too many more injuries.
Any more questions for Coach?
Yeah, Coach, looking at the numbers for the Spartans, it can be kind of eye-popping. So when you try to find something that might be a silver lining for you guys, it looked like early in the game you were getting pressure on Gray pretty well. You had 6 sacks in the game. I know his numbers still look good. What changed midway through? Was it injury stuff, or what? First half of the game seemed to be more pressure on him.
Well, I think in the second half, they did a nice job of running the ball. When you run the ball and you run play action off of it, you're not going to get a whole lot of pressure typically. They're going to some max protection stuff and they move the pocket. We got to do a much better job of getting our eyes on the long touchdown pass, the 49-yard touchdown pass. They run a naked off of play action. Our safety's running with their slot receiver and he runs right into the umpire. Gets knocked down and he's wide open. You try to teach your guys to have an awareness of those things around you, and we got to get better at it. Other times, they did a nice job, I think, throwing screens and what we call glance plays, where they're just reading off of play action and hitting fairly easy passes. So I don't know that. I think they did a nice job of not getting into a bunch of 5-step. We didn't get them into many 3rd and longs where we made them get into 5-step. And early on, we got them into some 5-step stuff where they're throwing the ball down the field, and we were able to pressure. And so it all comes down to stopping the run and getting them into 3rd and long.
Do you feel like there's any benefit at all that you're going to face a team this week that's probably going to do a lot of that same kind of stuff?
Well, I think the benefit is that you got another week to prepare for those types of things, and it's very similar. Running back, I think, Irvin and Humphrey compare very well. The problem is we didn't do a very good job last week, so careful what you wish for.
As far as your running back, Martez Waller, I know he, going into the you said he's your best player, had a big year last year. And obviously these questions are a lot easier to come up with when you lose as opposed to when you win. Things aren't as glaring, but Mississippi game, you guys come out and empty, so he's going to touch the ball. The Utah game, he touched it 1 time on the first possession. And now this first possession in San Jose, you get a 66-yard kick return, you're in their territory, and he doesn't touch the ball on those 4 downs. He wasn't on the field. Is that overthinking it, or not wanting to be too obvious, or can you explain it? Because fans, will say, hey, Waller's your guy, where is he?
Well, in that game the other day, by game plan, by design, we decided to start the game in a different personnel package where we thought Malik, because he was going to be a lead blocker on those plays, was a better guy to start with. We should have gotten Martez in the game earlier. That was a coaching error. We had a different personnel package go in after the second play, and he didn't go. We got to do a better job with that. That was not by design. By design was to start the game in a package where we had 2 tight ends and Martez or Meissen.
So it's not a lack of confidence in him or what he can do.
No. We try to do things, and our fly package stuff. We like, Jameer's got a lot of speed. We thought we can, potentially leverage them and then use that later in the game. And later in the game, because of that faking the fly, it affected them. We were able to get some runs that Martez had later in the game. But it's everyone looks at one play individually, but it's all part of a big picture that we're trying to, get a defense to honor certain things so that we can open up other things.
You mentioned Jameer. How impressed are you with the acceleration of his learning curve? I mean, 2 weeks in a row, he's been a playmaker.
Yeah, no, we saw that in the spring, and we knew through fall camp he was going to be one of our better playmakers. He's an example of one of the guys that I talked about, in preseason, that we got a bunch of no-name guys right now, but I think that are going to be guys people are going to know about. And, the plays that he made the other day, I think are great examples of that. He's a guy that's one of the fastest guys, most explosive guys on our team. I think he's one of the more explosive guys in the conference. For a guy who's a freshman, he's a difference maker for us. And We got to figure out more ways to get him touches. He did a nice job on our kickoff return when DeMario went down. He ran a nice bounce, and you can see his speed that he can turn the corner.
And you coached him on the reverse play that he reversed.
Well, the lucky thing was that they gave us the exact same look, and it went just like we practiced it.
So we'll see it again this week in San Diego.
Well, they won't probably defend it the same way, so we may have to change the execution.
Rocky Long, I know you have a lot of respect for him, as a lot of people do, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And take us back to that last trip to San Diego, because he really threw some curveballs at you with an extra week to prepare. What do you remember about the things he threw at you that time, and in general, what do you have to prepare for when he's on the other sideline?
In general, you have to prepare for chaos. They're going to do a lot of things to disrupt your run game by blitzing certain gaps. There is a method to the madness. They're going to put, a bunch of guys on the line of scrimmage and make you protect. And they hadn't shown some of the looks that they showed us 2 years ago out there, but in that first half, we struggled with it. They did a lot of similar things a couple weeks ago against Cal that they did against us. With having 1 week to prepare, they can do anything they want to do, but I would imagine they're going to do what they've typically done. Last year we saw a little bit more open middle coverage than what we had seen in the past. Before it was closed middle man coverage. You got to prepare for everything from him, and you got to be able to adjust on game day, because what you prepare for may not necessarily be what you see.
Any final questions for Coach? All right, thank you.
Thank you.